Hi guys, now you know exactly what to do for the test. You succeeded your test, you're great, congratulations. Now it's time for your UN interview. Now there are going to be two types of interviews likely. Now this is just a new thing, the automatic interview and the interview in front of the panel. We're going to talk about this. This is going to be a complete overview of that. Now I'm going to give you tons of secret. I'm going to give you tons of information here. And then after that, in the next video, we're going to talk about the CAR system and we're going to talk about all you need to know about the new type of interview, which is a competency-based interview, which are super difficult, and you need to know what you're doing. And then after that, we're going to talk about all the questions they're going to ask you. So this is the next 3 videos all about the interview. Let's begin. Now these days, the interview only happen over Zoom or maybe Microsoft Teams. There's no such thing as going in person, and flying you in does not happen anymore. It does happen maybe for D1 or the FSG, basically Secretary General, the high level, yes. But at the lower level, they don't do that anymore. Flying you in just for a few days for you to interview, it's not happening anymore. Now, HR is going to contact you by email to give you the time frame when they have the interview. So the time and the duration of the interview, and you will have to accept that time slot, okay? Because the thing is, they have to gather 5 people, generally high-ranking people, together at the same time with vacation, home leave, time off, sick leave, all kinds of things. Getting those people together at the same time is difficult. So they may have only one day to interview 5 or 6 candidates for that specific job. You want to make sure that you just say yes and do it, because if not, they might just pass you off, okay? They might just say, okay, yeah, he was very good on the exam, but he doesn't want it that day. We don't have another day. We need to conclude that process. We have 100 days to conclude. We're close to it. That's it. He's not available. Next candidate. So you don't want to lose the job when you are, so close basically to get a job at the UN, just because you don't want to do it that day. Now here I'm going to give you a quick overview of what they're looking for, and trust me, in the next video we're going to go in extreme depth about this, but I just want you to understand overall what they're looking for. Okay, so they want to have your skill set. Are your skill relevant for the job? Do you have the right attitude for it? And also, what are your goals? The thing is that are you willing to go work for 2-3 years in Africa, in a war zone, for example, in Mali or something, in order to be able to get in the UN, and after that maybe continue somewhere else? This is the type of thing that they want to know. Are you willing to do that? Now these days this is much easier, okay, because you could have a background behind you when you talk, okay? You don't need to have a green screen for that. A lot of apps like exactly Zoom and Microsoft Teams will have that, where you'll be able to have a background. But if not, make sure that you clean the room, that everything is nice and sweet. Make sure you're uninterrupted, not disturbed, no kids around, nothing yelling. Now don't worry, HR is going to contact you the day before your interview just to try it out, maybe 5 minutes, okay? Just so, okay, to see, okay, that's your background. They might give you a recommendation. Yeah, maybe your background's not neutral. Could you try to have something more, exactly, neutral. Something not too blurry, something that looks nice, something that looks professional. Also the way you dress, and the audio and video, because you really want to be able to understand the people and you want to make sure they see you correctly. Now, if you're lucky and the people have been identified, so basically if HR has emailed you and emailed them as well, then you know who they are. If not, you can check on the website to see who's on the panel and try to research a little bit about them. Just go on LinkedIn, type their name, try to see where they worked before. That way, that can create first of all, a relaxed environment for you, because you already know the people that are going to be interviewing you. But also it could give you some affinity, or maybe you're in the same nationality that they are. Maybe you have some similar background. So that could help you connect. How to succeed your interview. Now here I'm going to give you a few secrets that are really, really valuable, okay? First of all, it's not a question of if the connection breaks, it's when it will, okay? It's almost all the time, because first of all, if you deal with 5 people on the panel that are not in the same location, they are in developing nation, some will be on their cell phone, some on their computers, okay? 99% of the time you're going to have a disconnection, you're going to have an issue, okay? Don't panic. It's okay. They're going to reconnect. It's not going to eat up into your interview time. Generally, they will extend the interview if you're a good candidate and they see that you have an affinity with them and there's a chance you get the job, or they really want to probe deeper into the interview. So just think about it. They ask you a question, it disconnect. Think about your answer. When the connection reconnect, don't waste your time in chit chat. Just go, okay, so we were here and I was explaining to you about this, and just continue your interview as if nothing happened. Make sure you understand the question fully before you answer. This is crucial for two reasons. First of all, it shows your listening skill. And the second thing is you don't want to waste your time, like 2 or 3 minutes, for something that they didn't ask you, because likely they won't interrupt you because they probably don't know if you're going to go back to answering the question correctly at the end or not. So they may not interrupt, and you might just waste 5-7 minutes of your time and their time. And also, basically it shows that you didn't listen at all. And if you have an issue, make them repeat, okay? I've seen this sometimes that maybe the guy is from India, he has a very thick accent, and over the microphone, maybe it's not very good, or somebody else, some other colleague might just, like take over and repeat the question. Something like that might happen. But make sure you understand a question fully, make them repeat 2-3 times if you have to. Don't answer the wrong question. Stay relaxed, okay? You better, have some humor. If you make a mistake, if you say something wrong, if, whatever, that's okay, okay? Just be relaxed. Don't be smug, okay? Those people, they really know what they're doing. They've seen a lot of people. They do a lot of interviews. So it's okay if, you better have like, laugh at yourself than basically be snub. Try to turn your weakness into strength. This is a basic on everything. If you're late, and people realize, okay, give me an example where you had a problem with your team and where you failed in teamwork. And you might say, well, because of certain personal issue, I was late a lot, something like that, and that contributed to whatever. But I was staying way longer than other member of the team at the end of the day because I was late in the morning, something like that, okay? Try to just turn those disadvantages into advantages. Never diminish your former boss or your former employees or your former employer, the organization or the staff you work with. Don't do that. This is super negative. You don't want to do that. Even if those people or the organization is corrupt like hell, or your former boss was an ass, okay, and it's very bad, just try to remain absolutely neutral. These people will be your former employer. They don't, if you talk bad about your previous guy, maybe you're going to talk bad about them. Okay, so stay very, very nice, not negative. Mobility. Most staff in the United Nations will have maybe 7 or 8 move during their career. So 7, 8 different countries they live in during their career. They make more and more money as they move. They increase posts as they move. Nobody expects you to stay at the same organization for a long time. And a lot of things in the United Nations makes it that you can't. Okay, so for example, you live in New York, they're going to pay your rent for 5 years. After that, they stop paying. If your rent is $4,000 a month and after 5 years, they stop paying your rent, then you have to pay $5,000 out of pocket, $4,000 whatever out of pocket. Another thing too is you're going to make more and more and more money as you move around. There are even some organizations like the IAEA is one of them, the OCPTO, stuff like that. They all have a maximum of 7 years. So if you stay in the organization for 4 or 5 years, you're going to start applying immediately for another job and move. Mobility is something the UN has no issues with, okay? And that's perfectly fine. If they ask you to move or travel around, you have to say yes. Otherwise, you're not going to get the job. Make sure you have teamwork. Make sure you're able to adapt, because if you move to another country, maybe it's difficult for you to adapt, right? You arrive in Africa, the climate, the people, the living and stuff like that. It's difficult. If it's a war zone, you're going to have to adapt to that too. And your family as well. Okay, like I've mentioned, even if you live in a developing nation, you move to Canada, you might have issues with the cold, you might have issues with, the expense and stuff like that. This is a problem, the language, whatever. Make sure that you express to them that it's not a problem, your family is behind you, and yes, there's not going to be any issue moving. Another thing too is if you look at the job description, you're going to also see very often that they're going to say stuff like 3 years of experience in Africa, 2 years of experience in the Middle East, because they want to make sure you're not going to arrive over there, freak out, and leave. Okay, that's basically what they're asking for in those interviews. Remember the name of the people on the panel. That's important, because if they ask you a question, so give me an example where you fail at teamwork. So thank you very much, Michael, for the question. So you want to know an example when I fail at teamwork. Here's the example. You give your example. Then at the end, say, Michael, I hope that answers your question. It's okay to ask questions. So at the end in the interview, they will ask you a question, okay? So do you have any question for us? Okay. Well, the thing is, if you have any question that are pertinent to maybe the country or for your family, something like that, yes, ask the question. That's okay. So for example, Mali, it's a family excluded zone, but it's not prohibited by the United Nations, okay, in some cases. Yes, because you have to stay on the base. But in Mali, they could stay, technically in the city, that's okay. It's not a big deal. But you may ask them, will they get all the benefit, and will my family be able to stay with me or not? And if the answer is no, then you will know whether or not you want to take the job. But don't ask any question that makes them believe that you are getting the job. So like, when do I start, or something like that. That's not the type of question you want to ask. Now, before we end the video, I just want to talk to you about the 2 or 3 new things that I see in the UN system sometimes that are popping up. IQ test, behavioral test. So some questions on basically you have a, 20, 30, 40 questions. You have maybe an hour to fill them, and it's basically, okay, in this situation, what would you do? A, B, C, D. Are you a person that you prefer working with other people? You're solitaire, you're against other people, or you're a complete recluse. A, B, C, D. Or you're extroverted and, you love working with everybody and you're always going to come to the office. Working from home is a problem. That kind of questions. This is sort of to determine who you are. Also, automatic testing. So basically, you're going to be in front of the camera like we are right now, and you will basically have a question, maybe a minute or two to think about it, and then press record your answer for 5 minutes, press stop. And after those 5 questions, they're going to be uploaded to the testers, whatever, the interviewers. They're going to check it out. And then after that, you'll be called for the official interview. These are the new things that they're starting to put together. Now, in some country like the United States, an IQ test is illegal to ask, but it's not in other country. In the UN is basically no nation. All right, guys. So in the next video, we're going to talk about in-depth about the car story. Now, this is the main thing for the United Nations and other organizations these days, and even corporations do that. We're talking about the interview process that are competency based, and this is hard, and we're going to talk about all this in the next video.